I'm Lydia.
I'm Ed.
We're friends with a playlist for everything. And it turns out we both have one called Survival Songs.
And it got us thinking, what are other people's survival songs?
So we thought we'd find out.
Welcome to Survival Songs,
A podcast where each episode our guest tells us about a song that gets them through the best and worst of times.
sensitive topics might be discussed.
So look after yourself.
The show contains portions of copyrighted material.
We'd love for you to support and celebrate the artists by streaming, downloading and buying their brilliant music. And go give our guests a follow on social media.
Help us grow the community of survival song listeners by joining us over on Substack and add to our public playlist on Spotify. Links are in the show notes.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Hi, welcome to Survival Songs. This one's a bit of a special one for me because this week we're talking to Matt Lazenby. Matt is the founder and creative director of design agency LazenbyBrown. He's a creative fellow of the Northern School of Art. He's a past master of the Guild of Media Arts, and he's the chair of the creative Selby Drivers. That's all very highfalutin in his own words, because most importantly to me, he's my best friend and has been since we were 13 years old. This week's episode is probably going to run a little bit longer than usual because we've got a lot to talk about. Essentially what you're hearing is a conversation between two friends that's been going on for the past 30 years. So I hope you enjoy it. So after 30 years, I finally find out what Matt's survival song is. And it turns out to be You're Beautiful by Mojave 3.
Beautiful like the moon at night, ducks and dives into the sea.
So that was You're Beautiful by Mojave 3, the survival song of today's guest, Mr. Matthew Lazenby. Hello, Matt. You all right?
All right, Ed, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. No problem at all. It's been a long time coming.
I know it feels like of all the people to be interviewing, this feels almost the oddest because, like, you know, music has been such a big part of our relationship. So to ask you some of these questions feels like almost trying to pin down something that's so ephemeral and massive. It feels almost impossible.
I was going to say, I feel like we've done this podcast maybe 12,000 times already. Over so many bar tops, it's not even true.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I will ask you the first question that we always ask, which is like, when did you first hear this? When did this record first come into your life, and what was your reaction to it?
So yeah, I remember feeling with the whole album really that this was something different to what I was used to listening to. There was instruments on the album that hit me completely differently to what I was listening to at the time, and during this period and slightly before it was absolutely expanding my love of Van Morrison, people like Neil Young, Dylan to an extent as well. But when I first heard this album, it was a real sense of something slightly in the weeds compared to what I was listening to at the time. And I remember just thinking to myself, it just felt different. It just felt different to me. It kind of unlocked a slightly even more, if this is possible, sort of pastoral side of my character, which just felt very rural, incredibly rural and incredibly simplistic and all the more beautiful because of it.
Do you remember sort of when that was? Like,
well, yeah, I think looking back, it was 1999 probably. Maybe kind of the summer and autumn of that year where I first came across the album, and then this song in particular is a real standout for that.
What makes it a survival song for you? Like, because I think survival is a really, and we'll come on to talk about what that means, but like in terms of why is it a survival song for you personally?
I think because it's such a portal. It's a lot of music for me is like kind of time travel, but this one in particular takes me back to a part of my life where things were really kind of coming together, and that sense of a kind of survival kit. I've thought a lot about the terminology around this idea of the podcast, this idea of survival. and like thinking of it as like a survival kit that has kind of basic human needs in it, and also an element of comfort as well. So it really reminds me of a period in my life where me and my wife Deb, we bought our first house, and it was just right for us. Things were kind of slotting into place, and this particular song is something that, you know, me and you had been out for a drink in York because we really enjoyed still. And it was that beautiful period where you just like, right, you know, been out for a few drinks, came back, and, you know, you're on the sofa and you put a song on, and I put this song on in particular, and everything was just exactly right. And I just remember, and I was in that absolutely that kind of that twilight state of absolutely drunk a bit too much, absolutely feeling full of the kind of joys of life, and just on the edge of probably sleep, really, you know. But I do remember an absolutely piercing, vivid recollection of feeling that I had absolutely everything around me that I needed. You know, Deb was there, the house, you were there, our beautiful little dog Squeak was there, and it was just this sense of me stepping into a state of mind that hasn't really left me since. So it's one of those kind of spooky evenings and a particular point in time, and this song absolutely takes me back to that very specific moment.
What's really weird is that I absolutely remember that evening as well. Like, joking aside, me and you have been out 1,000 times and drank 1,000 beers and listened to 1,000 records together and talked about, you know, all the songs, you know, and obviously not all of them, but, you know, we've talked about so much music in our lives, all the good ones. We talked about so much music in our lives, but that particular memory, I absolutely remember you playing this record, and I absolutely remember where I was in your flat, in your house, and I've been sat on that sofa facing the window, and you used to have your record player under the stairs, and you putting this record on. And at that point, me and you were listening to like loads of hip hop, loads of instrumental stuff, loads of like left field kind of beats, what would be called electronica, I suppose. We were really getting into that kind of stuff. But this been really such a different palette of the stuff we were listening to, and it just flooring me. I remember it flooring me and like wanting to know exactly who Mojave 3 were. And weirdly enough, I remember you playing it, and it turned out that Mojave 3 had a new album coming out, and I remember getting it on vinyl, and it just been, and again hearing that record, just listening to it endlessly, and Mojave 3 just becoming such an intrinsic sort of part of my soundtrack.
Would that be Exclusives for Travelers?
Yeah, Exclusives for Travelers was amazing. Got My Sunshine just still is one of my all-time favorite records.
Perfect album.
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember me and you listening to that one record when we drove over to the Holy Island. When it was like getting really dark, and we put that record on as we drove over in basically the pitch black over the road to the Holy Island. It was in like a note. Yeah, funny times, man. Yeah, but I know what you mean, that time where things felt like kind of innocent, but right. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to have quite a lot of those memories with you. But like, yeah, that was a really special moment when you played this record. I suppose because it obviously it's a beautiful memory, and like, and for us it's a, you know, beautiful shared memory as well, which we're lucky enough to have lots of. What makes it survival, and what does survival mean to you?
Yeah, I think it is. It's that idea of surrounding myself with the things that I've been lucky enough to encounter in my life, and that, you know, that is absolutely people, and its place, and it's having music around me which connects me directly to memories which are just as vivid today, and I definitely I found it very difficult to locate an individual song. I definitely have a lot, but that's what connects it to survival to me. It's to do with that sense of it's nourishing, it's sustaining. It's a song which kind of alters my state of mind. It's a song I can play and be taken somewhere else, and I think that's why it is a survival song for me. It connects to a part of me that I'm incredibly protective and proud of. So I think just for those reasons alone, and that absolutely is survival to me. It's living a life that's worth living, that feels like mine, which is, something that I've built with the people around me. That's what it means to me.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because sort of survival sometimes feels like it's pushing against things, and which is, for some people it absolutely is. It's survival is literally in the immediate, and it's what helps you get through the absolute moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need those songs, or that whatever it is that gets you through that immediacy. But what you're talking about is literally a holistic survival, like having a meal almost in front of you that's going to kind of like feed everything for you.
Yeah, it definitely is kind of, it's nourishing. It's something that feels, it's something that moves from living, surviving. It's like it's beyond existence. So survival is akin to existence, and obviously, so I'm pushing the envelope a bit, but what I'm thinking about is what makes life worth living. What are the moments that connect us all, that make that join up these memories and make life something that feels rich and deep and full of interest and individual experience. And it's the, it could be poems or paintings or plays or music, and in this case, that absolutely is something that I can say, right, that song is like a portal. It's a window, and it's something that I stepped through, and I've never looked back since I did. So that's an important moment in my life, and there'll be many others to come. But it's something that's really kind of lasted. It's one of those songs that's really lasted with me.
I suppose as well for us, like, and oddly, this one's so personal that I think for both, because we're both the same age, is that we felt, I think at that point, I remember we felt kind of like we were grown-ups, like, because you had a house, and, I was working, and, and I was renting a flat, and, it's all like we had the kind of like trappings of grown-uphood.
Yeah.
But we were kind of still had all that.
Yeah.
That, like,
it's a threshold thing, isn't it?
Threshold, yeah.
Dwelling on the threshold.
Dwelling, as Van Morrison would say, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you kind of like, you sort of like get to a point in what you might perceive to be adulthood, and yeah, to this day, just gone past my 48th birthday, I think the joy of it is that music like this, and all music in your life, does take you back, and I think there's a real interesting analogy around music connecting you to youth or to previous times, and that being an unhealthy connection in some cases. And I think it's really interesting that the awareness it brought me, and the way that I reflect on memories in my life, actually just make me feel that what just an act and a show supposed adulthood is, and I think once that veil falls away, it's incredibly empowering, exciting. It's an incredible feeling to think, oh, actually there's no grown-ups. You know what I mean? That isn't a real thing. That's not a thing. You talk to any person into their 80s or 90s, and they all feel like the same 26-year-old that we all feel like. Normally it's around 26. Obviously it all varies, and sure, people get old and they get bitter and they get weird. We all do, but actually, the myth of the adult is really interesting. It's really a fascinating subject. And as someone who's managed to get to this ridiculously old age and still feel viscerally connected on a daily basis to what is kind of music culture and not in any kind of throwback way, just because it's part of who I am, and it's part of what gets me out of bed. It's part of what makes me a good designer. It's part of what connects me to emerging culture. It's like massively important to me, not just because it's a throwback memory, but because it's part of the kind of like stuff of life. It's why I'm here, to receive that stuff, make sense of it, process it. It's what it's all about for me.
So it's like, I think like music allows you to, rather than drown in adulthood, it allows you to float on top of it. It's sort of like, I think, being grown up can sometimes drown us, right? We can get drowned in the kind of
sure,
all that, sure. all the stuff of whether it be the kind of the kind of macro politics, and
it's a raft,
absolutely, it's a raft that kind of keep and stops us actually sinking into it. And that's what, in a way, that is kind of surviving, because it's allowing us to kind of float above. Allow us not to be just drowned by adulthood, and actually hang on to those things that in a way, like, because there's nothing more boring than meeting people of our age, and how many men have you met of our age who are like, music shit now, music music doesn't matter to us kids anymore, which is
what I mean. It's the kind of like, the consigning your love and passion for music into your past. You do that at your peril, really, don't you? It's something that you have to keep step with, and you need to be able to. You're not going to feel the same way about it as you did back then, but your emotional vocabulary is way more advanced now. That's why, it's like you've just got a lot more nuance in how you're able to encounter things. It's not because it's diminished. It's because you have a totally new set of receptors. You know what I mean? It's and that's an incredible thing. That's an incredible thing to experience, and it helps you. The more you spend time with it, the more you accept that actually the way you felt about it in the past, you're going to feel differently about it. But it's just as powerful. It's just as resonant. It's just as life changing. But it's not something you used to do. Music shouldn't be something you used to do.
And actually, what's interesting is relating it back to this and the moment of hearing this record, and us having that kind of that moment of hearing this and both remembering it so vividly, is that actually it's not forgetting that moment and what it meant. And we can still have that moment. I still do, and I think being open, still being able to feel like that when you hear a new record,
absolutely,
that makes you survive, right?
It does. It does. And it makes the survival more than survival. It makes the survival a joy, and that's what it's all about. That's why we keep going on. It's there's that great phrase about a game being worth a candle. You know what I mean? In terms of like, well, okay, we're playing a game of cards, but we know who's going to win. So is this game worth the candle? Do you know what I mean? It's like, is it actually worth us leaving the candle on? You know what I mean? It's a lovely thing, because life has, even at our incredible old age, we have life has so much to teach us, and there's so many more songs that are going to leave us in tears in the car. That it's really why we get out here every day to get amongst that stuff. It's amazing that you and Lydia have done this platform, which literally focuses on that exact point.
So back to this record in particular,
yes,
is there a moment in this song which makes you go, Oh my God, we always talk about the moment in a song.
Yeah.
Is there a moment?
Yeah, there is. I think, and it's all about Neil Halstead's vocal delivery. You can probably place this better than me, but he seems to be singing through the roof of his mouth in a way that is really akin to humming. So when you listen to this song, if you're in another room, it literally sounds like someone is humming loudly, the entire thing. So all the kind of ranges are very kind of like in the middle. And whenever I listen to it or try and sing it, it literally feels like it's happening right in the center of my head. And there's something about the way the guitar links with when the vocal first comes in on top of that incredible guitar. It just completely blows my mind.
Velvet eyes are a part of me. Sunset smiles and secret tears.
And it is something to do with resonance and range. It sounds like it's inside your head.
And Neil Halstead has that kind of voice that just like, there's just a softness to it and a delicacy. He always sounds like he's going to break, right?
It's whispered, but it's not wispy. It's like,
no,
it's really, there's a lot of weight behind it. And that the weight is, you receive it as like vibration. It sounds like mid-range vibration. And on this song, it's like more powerful than on others, I think. On other albums, he got a little bit more light and shade, but on this one, there's a drone-like quality to it, which is like really soporific and really kind of like, after a few pints of whatever, but it feels hazy, it feels out of focus, and I think that's a wonderful quality to what they do.
Matt, thank you for joining us. Before you leave, can you tell us where people can find you and find information about you, should they wish to?
Yeah, of course.
And should you wish to be found?
No, I do. I do wish to be found. I run a company called LazenbyBrown, based on the Shambles. We're a design company. So you can find us at LazenbyBrown.com. My Instagram is Matt_LB. So you can find us there. Thanks for joining us, Matt. I will no doubt see you very soon over a couple of ales to put the world to right and talk more about music. Absolutely, Ed. Wonderful to see you. Yeah, you too. Lots of love. Take care, man.
We really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to support the podcast further, you can choose to upgrade your subscription on Substack. But most of all, we'd just love it if you told your friends about what we're up to. Thanks for listening.